How to sponsor your spouse or partner. Canadian citizens and permanent residents who are in a relationship with a foreign national may sponsor that person to join them in Canada and become a permanent resident. You may sponsor your spouse, common law partner, or married partner. There are two main options to choose from when sponsoring your spouse or partner. 1. Outland sponsorship and 2. Inland sponsorship. Outland sponsorship. Outland sponsorship is an option for couples who are not living together in Canada. This application is for foreign nationals who are residing abroad and are to be sponsored by their Canadian spouse or partner. If your spouse or partner is unable to apply from inside Canada or does not legally live in Canada at the time of the application, Outland sponsorship is likely the only option available. To be eligible to sponsor a spouse or partner under the Outland application category, the sponsor and sponsored person must meet the following criteria. The sponsor must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. The sponsor and the sponsored person must be at least 18 years of age. The sponsor and the sponsored person must be in one of the following types of relationship. Spouse, you are legally married, and your marriage is valid under the law of the jurisdiction where it was registered, and under Canadian law, common law, you are cohabiting or have cohabited with your partner in a marriage-like relationship for at least 12 consecutive months. Conjugal partnership. You have been in an ongoing and committed relationship for at least 12 months, but due to significant factors beyond your control, such as an immigration barrier, or marital status, you cannot live together. The sponsor must not have sponsored a spouse in Canada in the 5 years preceding the application. The sponsor or sponsored person must not be in prison, charged with a serious offense, or bankrupt. It is important to note that if you are in a conjugal relationship, the Outland sponsorship application is the only option available to you, as conjugal relationships are not eligible under inland sponsorship. If the sponsored person's work or personal situation requires them to travel outside the country, Outland sponsorship may be the better option, as it allows for travel to and from Canada during the application process. Inland sponsorship. Inland sponsorship is an option for couples who are living together in Canada. This application is for foreign spouses or partners who have valid temporary status in Canada, either as a worker, student, or visitor. The sponsored person will be able to continue to live, work, or study in Canada while the inland sponsorship application is being processed. To be eligible to sponsor a spouse or partner under the inland application category, the sponsor and sponsored person must meet the following criteria. The sponsor must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident in Canada. The sponsor and sponsored person must be at least 18 years of age. The sponsor and the sponsored person must be in one of the following types of relationships. Spouse, you are legally married, and your marriage is valid under the law of the jurisdiction where it was registered, and under Canadian law, common law, you are cohabiting or have cohabited with your partner in a marriage-like relationship for at least 12 consecutive months. The sponsor must not have sponsored a spouse in Canada in the 5 years preceding the application. The sponsor or sponsored person must not be in prison, charged with a serious offense, or is bankrupt. One of the main benefits of inland sponsorship is that the sponsored person may be eligible for an open work permit, which allows them to work full-time in Canada while their permanent resident application is being processed. It is expected that the sponsored person stays in Canada while their application is being processed. If the sponsored person does not plan to stay in Canada or needs to be able to travel while the application is being processed, Outland sponsorship may be a better option. How to submit my spousal sponsorship application. Applications to sponsor a spouse or partner may be submitted outside Canada at a visa office or in Canada at a local immigration office. Sponsorship applications for conjugal partners can only be submitted through an outside of Canada application process. How long does it take to process Outland and inland sponsorship applications? Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC's target processing period for spousal sponsorship is around 12 months. What are my obligations when sponsoring my spouse for Canadian immigration? In short, you must be able to provide for your spouse or common law partner's basic needs. If you sponsor your spouse or partner to become a Canadian permanent resident, you must sign an undertaking, in which you promise to provide financial support for the basic needs of your spouse or partner, and their dependent children, if applicable. Basic needs include food, clothing, shelter, and anything else needed for everyday living. Dental care, eye care, and other health care that isn't covered by public health services. Before signing the undertaking agreement, you must be certain that the sponsored person will not need to ask the government for financial help. In addition, if they receive social assistance from the government, you will need to pay back the amount they have received during the time you were responsible for them. The undertaking is a binding promise of support. It deems you responsible for supporting the applicant for the length of the undertaking period, even if your situation changes. The undertaking will stay in effect even if the person you sponsor becomes a Canadian citizen, you divorce, separate, or the relationship with the sponsored person breaks down, you or the sponsored person move to another province or country, you experience financial problems. What is the length of the undertaking? The length of the undertaking is different for residents of Quebec than it is for the rest of Canada. For all parts of Canada except for Quebec, if you are sponsoring a spouse, common law, or conjugal partner, the length of the undertaking is 3 years from the day the sponsored person becomes a permanent resident. If you are sponsoring a dependent child over 22 years old, the length of the undertaking is also 3 years. If the dependent child is under 22 years old, the length of the undertaking is 10 years from the day they become a permanent resident or until the child becomes 25 years old, whichever comes first. Can I cancel my undertaking? If you change your mind and no longer want to sponsor a spouse or partner, you must write Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, a letter before the final decision is made on the file. The withdrawal of an undertaking will only be allowed if it is approved by IRCC. Before making the decision of sponsoring anyone, you need to think and make the decision that best suits you. Good luck!